Science. Paranormal. Drinks. Three tortured souls. Entertain, educate, recreate, and intoxicate.
All right. Hey, see? I didn't screw it up.
I lost $1.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, well,
I'll lose it
all
next time. So tonight we are talking about Ouija boards. And this was a typical topic where I waited until this morning to start really diving into it. I looked a little bit last night, but I was like, I got other stuff I got to prepare for, and I waited till today. So, and then that backfired on me because I didn't realize how deep of a dive I was going to go into it. And it was fun. I mean, I was diving into the history of it a lot, and I got sucked into the evolution coming up to the what we know as a Ouija board. And honestly, I just got there. like I just got to where the modern day Ouija board came into being. So it was a fascinating journey the last, few hours just going through it. So,
It's like me in college.
I mean, how you guys been? First of all,
good.
good.
Yeah, had a good time. Work trip. Ended up going to Charleston, where somebody from my group booked a haunted pub crawl.
Oh,
so you guys would have loved it. I don't know how many times people are like, "Could you possibly roll your eyes anymore?" But we only stopped at one bar, so I was pretty disappointed. I was like,
what?
Pub crawl? Shouldn't there be like a 2-3 bar limit? But anyway,
Right.
it was cool. We heard a lot of good history of downtown Charleston, and got to walk through a couple cemeteries at night, which is always fun when you're down in the South. And yeah, it was a good time. So it was fun.
Oh, cool.
And off to Hilton Head for a while. Then Jen joined us later in the week, and then we spent a couple days on vacation. So it was good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good.
Tim, how you been? What have you been up to?
Good. Been producing the back part of some shows for some people. Having a lot of fun doing that. Trying to sort through all the questions and not mess it up. Work. And yes, I did. I looked for a tiara. So I'm going to wear a tiara for Kat. And I grew up, I can't say I grew up, but my daughter grew up and she's a dancer. So she always had tiaras, and they were always everywhere. And I just feel like every time I'm ready to do, I like 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the show, I'm like going through some of the boxes, and I just need to take time and find one.
Right.
I mean, they're still here. She didn't take them with her when she moved. At least I don't think so, but they're still here. And when I find them, I'm going to have like at least a different tiara for a couple shows, just for Kat.
So to start the show off, I was thinking, what if we could just go to each of us, and what were your thoughts before you started diving into this? Like, what was your overall impression of it, and what did you think about it? And then, were you surprised by anything that you read today or the last? Well, I'm assuming that all of us just dived in today. But was there anything that surprised you? And then we'll just jump into some of the information that we got. So, Dave, you go first.
So my first reaction to the topic was, fuck. But it was fun to read the history again. I didn't really learn anything new. I think most of the stuff I've either read before or heard of, so it was nothing really new. As a kid, played around with it a lot. It was fun. My mom, I think, pulled a trick on us one time and scared the shit out of us when we were playing with it. But it's one of those topics where it just keeps coming up and up and up. And now you see haunted locations that say no Ouija boards whatsoever. I'm like, really? I don't know. Then you start thinking about how the Catholic Church views it, and they warn you to stay away from it, and then the role it played supposedly in some maybe demonic possessions, and I skipped all that crap this time. I just looked refreshed my memory on the history, ideomotor effect, maybe at best, you see a couple things here and there about source of agency, and people, do they really feel they're controlling it or not? And there's a difference between maybe skeptics and believers when they do that. And Tim's tracking eyeballs to see who's staring at what on the Ouija board. I didn't cross anything new. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
It just, to me, it's a fun novelty.
Right.
That's about it.
All
But
right.
to be used in anything serious, obviously people are skeptical, don't take it serious, and parapsychologists don't take it seriously. So I really didn't do a whole lot more after those points.
All right.
Not a lot here for me to bitch about tonight, but we'll see what happens.
Dave just summed up the entire episode right there. So Tim,
I think the source of agency gives me a Scooby clue that all three of us read the same paper, which was a paper that I was preparing. So I like the psychology of it. I really do. Like, there's some things, for some reason, I'm going to say there's a lot of things and a lot of cultures and a lot of things that people love that come and go. So there's a lot of things from all the way for the history of ghost hunting, believing ghosts, that come and go. But for some reason, this Ouija board thing sticks. And it has a good stick to it. For some, it has a lot of really bad connotations with it. So that's interesting to me. Like, why this? Why not something else? I'm sure that there's been a lot of other things that have come and gone. But why is this one so attractive? And I'm sure that the publication and when they made games out of it, that certainly helped. And the promotion of the game, probably when there wasn't a whole lot of access to communicating with spirits, that you could have in your home for a little bit of price. Not like today, where you can get all kinds of ITC devices for under $39.99. Yeah. So
work as good as the Ouija board.
No, I would trust the Ouija board before I trusted some of that shit, even the $1,000 ones.
The DR60.
Yeah.
Oh
God.
my God.
So the psychology of it is great. I like that part of it. I've always liked that part of even all of the paranormal part of it. Like, why does one person think and see and feel and come across that way?
Right.
I did read that paper. I highlighted the shit out of that paper. I looked up a lot of words in that paper. Yep. And that paper was, Dave and I, Kenny and I were talking about it. He read it too. I guess we kind of both found, all three of us found. Mm-hmm. It seemed a little bit confusing to me. So I tried to go back and start it again, because even though I read it, I wasn't sure what they were measuring. Like, what were you measuring? I saw the eye tracking, but it jumped back and forth between several topics, several things that they were comparing inside the paper itself. I'm not saying that it's a bad paper, because I'm not qualified to say that. What the probability of that is like, I'm not smart enough to understand that paper. But it sounds like a really good paper. But it just got a little confusing. So I was like, I'm not going to try to break down this paper on this show. Not now, but that's where I'm at.
Okay.
So I'm flying blind.
For me, I'm actually bringing up the paper so that I can put it in the chat so people can read it or try to decipher it along with us. Or just don't go read it now, because it's confusing. I did the same thing. I read through it, and quite a few times I was like, what are they doing? Are they, what am I reading? Like, what am I testing here? What are they testing? I don't understand what they're trying to say. And I mean, that might be me. I'm not good at this. I do try. I usually have to have my phone or laptop out when I'm reading a paper so I can look up all the big words. Yep. But overall, the Ouija board, I think for me, it's always been about the artwork. I've loved it. I think the designs are really cool. You have your standard design, which everybody knows, with the tan background or the gray background, and then the dark lettering or artwork. But then there's so many others. I mean, you have so many brands that come up. You can see I have quite a few here, but I have a bunch more at home and down in the museum part of the office. And I've always had it's that mystery. Like years ago, it was the mystery of like, does it really work? You know, it was intriguing because the planchette might move, like really, really cool. But the more I got into it, the more I understood, like, all right, there's things like the idiomotor effect, which we can talk about in a little bit. Of course, there's fakers out there. Of course, there's magnets that are being used, and movies hype it up. And I knew that there was a point in time where basically the Exorcist movie turned it from an everyday game to something evil, and now all of a sudden it was bad. Dave, you mentioned like the church. I have this cool little book, The Dark Secret of the Ouija, put out by the Young Readers Christian Library. And I found it fascinating because when you read it, it's about, two girls that play with a Ouija board, and things go wrong because the spirit's obviously evil that comes through. But don't worry, if you bring Jesus into your heart, that's all you need to do. And basically, it was just a commercial, and it tickled me because I was like, it's funny how the church tells you not to use it, but it's using it to try to get in members. Like, don't read this book about the things we're telling you not to touch, because we want you to come over to us. But that's just that. But getting into this, I actually did a deep dive into the evolution of it. I wanted to know where it came from, and I knew that there was not always something bad. I knew from just pictures and looking at advertisements, because like I have this tray, so it's basically like a dinner tray. Because it's got the beveled edges that come up. And I got this. This was a gift from Autumn Sword. And I found a picture advertisement of it being used with two smiling girls. This is from 1946.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like this was in your homes. People were happy about it. So I guess
looks like a cheese and cracker tray.
Yeah, it really
so your cracker would move around.
Charcuterie board.
Yeah,
and what's really cool, I mean, when you look at it, it looks like more of the I think they used to call it like a Swami version because of the lettering. But if you look, you recognize that? The witch.
Yes.
Oh yeah, from Disney.
Yes. But it's not a Disney board.
Oh, whoa! That could have been a big lawsuit back in the day.
Oh, we're in trouble. Thanks, Kenny. Fuck. This is Kenny's show.
I think the biggest surprise is how well it was received, and not only how well it was received when the board finally came out, but how long. Like when Elijah Bond, and I guess we can just roll into it.
Sure.
Elijah Bond is probably the most famous for patenting this toy, this board game, and he did so in 1891. That's the patent that I have for it, and I also have another patent by who was it? Kennard Talking Board Company, which is also 1891, a few months later. But even before that the rumors were coming out of Ohio. Somewhere in Ohio, and I think it's Chesterfield, Ohio, because I know there's a spiritualist camp there. There you go. They're going to be coming for us. But basically, there were stories coming out of Ohio about this planchette kind of device, but it wasn't like the planchette. The way the article reads, and I have an article here from April 3rd, 1886, and it's really cool. It's fascinating. It says the new planchette, or as Tim says, planchet.
Planchet.
It says mysterious talking board and table over which northern Ohio is agitated. And it goes on to describe your basic Ouija board setup. That's
Mhm.
the guy that was interviewed did a pencil design, and then they did a nicer one about it. But they're basically telling you about a table, and a small table that sounds like a planchette, but it's different. And the more I dove into that, the more I realized that the planchette was around for quite some time.
Mhm.
So as far as I found, 1853 was the time where the planchette was first invented in France. And
Blanchet.
planchet.
It's French for
Um,
bullshit.
So basically, I found that there's a description. There's a longer description, and I'll post it. I'll post that in the chat soon too when I stop talking. But June 10th of 1853, the first planchette was invented by an unnamed Frenchman who was attending a séance. They were doing a table tipping session, and I guess they were getting messages through the knocks and the tipping of the table, and it became tiresome. And this guy apparently got up and was disgusted and was like, "This is taking too long." Took a basket, turned it over, stuck a pencil in one end, and said, "Here, use this and write out your messages." And they started doing it. And that was the first like crude planchette or planchet. That's gonna haunt my dreams now, Tim. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And then it came to America, which I think was more about what was that? 1868. Copies were brought. Wait, 1860. 1860. Two gentlemen arrived in Boston. They were in Paris, France. They saw the planchette. They brought back a few, and then a gentleman named G.W. Cottrell saw it, took it, and then made 50 copies and started selling it in America. And it became a big thing. It started going from there, and people started applying for patents. And there are patents that I found that predate the Ouija board from Elijah Bond. I mean, we have patents. The first patent that I could find was from Adolphus Theodore Wagner. And it was filed or granted January 23rd, 1854.
Wow.
Yeah, we're going back.
That's pretty cool.
And it's really neat. That's why I went down this rabbit hole. I was so excited. I'm like, damn, I did not know this. And then it got to a point where I'm going to share the screen here because in, what was it, 1880. So we're talking 11 years before Elijah Bond filed his patent. There was a patent filed for that. So it was a table with your painted alphabet up top, and then a planchette that was like a rod, and that would go back and forth, swing on the anchor point down there, go back and forth, and that was amazing. I was like, "What the hell? This is a Ouija board." And then I also found things a little bit different. There was, wait a minute, let me get out of here. There were, where is it? Where is it? Wait, there it is. There's actually this, which was much earlier. This came out in 1868. And this is pretty much an all-in-one. So it is a planchette that has, it's got the top and the bottom. They're separated by ball bearings. So the top moves freely. And there's a little pointer right there. And it's got the alphabet that was printed on the bottom base. And it would spin. Instead of moving around like a planchette, it would just spin. And you would still put your fingers on it, and it would move freely around. And you would be able to point to different letters. So, like, this blew my mind because I didn't know any of this. I didn't know these things existed. I didn't realize there was such an evolution. I thought it was more like there was slate writing, and then people started using it's kind of like a planchette, but instead of a third leg, it had a pencil at the point so that it could draw out some things, more like scrying kind of thing. And then you went into like mediumship and stuff like that, and then eventually the planchette made a comeback where it paired up with a board. There you go. So this is actually really, really cool. It really blew my mind. I mean, and that's not the only thing. I was showing Tim this earlier. This is a psychograph. Let me, if I can blow this up. There you go, a little bit bigger. So this is 1880. It's called the Hudson Tuttle Psychograph. And I mean, this is actually I like this better, and it's for sale. It's like $340. So I'm thinking about buying this.
That's cool.
But this is the same thing. The top is on ball bearings, but this has the added bonus of an answer that says, I don't know, which I really think is cool. Like, I was like, we say that all the time. If you don't know, then you don't know. But I thought this was fascinating.
That's cool.
So I've been talking a lot. I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to pass it on I'm going to stop sharing, but I'm going to pass it on to Dave and see, what did you come up with? What's your perspective on that?
A lot of the same stuff you came across, not that level of depth. I didn't have that kind of time, but a lot of the interesting stuff with the precursors. I think there was a mention somewhere, and I can't remember where it was at the moment, but one of the other precursors was the pendulum swinging above letters on a piece of paper. And then going back to like the 6th century BC, it was like some sort of moving table. So that it wasn't a Ouija board, but it was some sort of divining device going all the way back to the 6th century BC. Wow. So it has a long history. I think a lot of people, and including myself at one point a while ago, thought, well, when Parker Brothers came out with the board, that's when it was invented. And it actually goes back quite a ways. And then if you start looking at the precursors to that, some of the stuff you just showed, the pendulum, whatever this table thing was in the 6th century BC, it has a long history, a pretty long history. So interesting. I love the history part of it, but as far as finding anything that shows that anybody got a message that wasn't probably due to either them fucking with somebody, or at best maybe you're subconsciously moving it around. You just maybe you don't idiomotor. Maybe that you do tap. If you get into a certain type of state, you can tap you can have a subconscious message come out that you don't even know you're pushing it around. You are, but you just don't know it. So I was kind of hoping to find at least one thing where somebody did something that had an interesting result, but there's nothing out there.
Right.
But this falls into, to me, a long line of ways to communicate with spirits. Everything, table tipping, knocking, psychomentium, all those type of things. And then the modern day communication devices, which are really not a whole lot different if you think about it in what the Ouija board was meant to do.
Right.
But I guess it always makes me wonder, is like, whoever thought that just by having a board with a planchet that would, why would a ghost want to communicate that way? I mean, I know some people argue, well, the ghost actually uses you as the vessel and it communicates the messages for you, but that's been proven to probably not be true. I mean, who did the blindfold experiment?
I did one. Yeah.
That was a question people. We had too.
Yeah, you blindfold people, and then I think there was one where they blindfolded, and then they rotated the board 180 degrees, and nothing was spelled out. And then the argument back was, well, the ghost needs your eyes to see. Well, why the hell does the ghost need my eyes to see?
How did it find me in the first place?
How did it find me? It saw you looking at yourself in the mirror, Tim. That's how it found you.
Just seems like a more difficult process, because you need the living person's eyes, you need the living person's hands, arms, and shoulders to move it. I don't get it. Like, it just seems like a lot of work to do what?
Yeah, and if that's your excuse of what's happening, then just be a psychic medium and just tell us what you're getting. You don't need
Right.
to introduce a board there. So it's fun, it's interesting, but I've never seen anything that would indicate that it can actually communicate with anything. And I got people only know where the hell they get this idea of it. It opens a door to demons. Basically, the argument, I think, if I remember right, is that the evil forces or spirits will impersonate the dead person you think you're talking to trick you to open up the door so they can get into you and your house.
Yeah.
I don't know. I went off on a gazillion little tangents as I'm looking into things, but I don't know. It's just I played with it as a kid. As a kid, terrified because you didn't know if your friend was really moving it or not. And then I remember one time, I don't know, we had enough of it, so we thought, take it out back. We need a new target for the BB guns. So we shot the shit out of the thing, broke it in half, threw it in the garbage, and I swear to God, my mom must have had another one because the next morning there was one brand new looking one sitting on the table, and all of us kids are like, shit.
That should have been your sign. I'm sorry.
So I mean, it's I was actually, though, I guess to take back that I wasn't surprised. I was surprised if you make the stretch all the way back to the 6th century BC that there could have been a precursor to this. But then again, that I think about it a bit, it doesn't surprise me too much because psychomentiums, mirror gazing, divining, trying to get answers, mystics, it's not too surprising.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm a ghost. I'm not pretty sure I don't need to spell shit out on a wood cardboard board. I'm just going to try to communicate to you with my psychic powers.
You need a flashlight that's turned just about on. And
about as much as I need a radio that doesn't work.
Scans.
Tim, anything interesting that you found in your
actually, just from listening to you guys talk, there was a couple things that kind of popped into my head. When you pulled up that book that you had from the church, you pointed out there that there were 2 girls on it.
Yeah.
And then there was another thing that you pulled up that showed 2 girls.
Oh yeah, the picture of the
that was the pre-show. Careful, Tim.
Whoa.
So I was like, okay, so I'm sitting here thinking like that. This just goes back to the psychology of it. I was like, why is that common? Is like, were they targeting young girls or young females, and why were? So I did while you guys were talking, and actually Dave brought up the next one, which is just completely different. But you had talked about escalation. Next thing you know, there's a demon, and I'm like, that seems to be like a common thread. Like something starts out pretty mundane, and then once it runs its course through all the ghost hunters that have ever done it, then somebody always comes along and brings up something like, well, okay, you guys did that, but I contacted a demon. Like, I wonder if historically things naturally escalate until they just kind of fizz out. But I did Google historic advertising, and I found somebody in 2009. I don't know if this is a syllabus. It's from Brown, which is I hear a pretty good university. But it's a 2009 syllabus online, but it's the advertisement of the Ouija. Huh. So I'm going to read what it says. I'm not saying that I believe it. I'm just going to kind of say what it says because it says Ouija boards are often advertised with young females as the target audience. So it looks like somebody's done some research for me. The Ouija board allows for a diversion from teenage life and gives the user a sense of rebellion. Secret messages and intimate communications have become a bit of rebellion. A rite of rebellion. Ouija circles tend to spring up in college dormitories. Oh God, this is old. Often with young women at their helm. These women are claimed to be unconsciously reprising the role of spirit medium that women had held in the earliest centuries. The Ouija claims to be a way for young women to work through their fears. And that's from Horowitz. They're quoting, this isn't there. idea, but they're quoting a publication by Horowitz 74. So they give a link for that. And the next was Ouija board advertisements often grab young girls by playing with their hormones. By claiming that boys are the best Ouija partner, that Ouija is, quote, even better with a boy, unquote. The advertisements play to young girls' want for love-and marriage, that's just terrible. So I kind of looked up. I was just like advertising for the Ouija board. And is it okay for me to share my screen?
Sure.
And I was like, son of a bitch. Is this like, am I seeing this right? Hold on, let me get to where I can.
It's interesting because I have a collection of old advertisements for Ouija boards because I used to hang them up. Yeah, I see a lot of the same
so
ones.
You can see, I mean, is that historically? I mean, it kind of
Saturday Evening Post. I came across that. That was pretty cool.
That's cool. I'm looking for that issue.
But there,
I'd love to get that one.
It does seem if you're a little bit older, there's a boy and a girl.
Well, they're on the left. There you go.
Yeah. And if you're younger, it targets. But I don't know if they're seeing that. And there's what is that? Oh, Stranger Things. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
I got that one too.
I
think what I can add to that is there is a slight unbalance there because usually the most common advertisements that I've seen, especially when you're getting into more of the early 1900s, and like the late 1800s and the early 1900s, it's more printed. There's also sketches. I mean, they didn't have a good photography back then, but when you get into more of the photography advertisements, photo advertisements, it's a man and a woman. It's always a boy and girl. And the idea there that I've heard is always because it was a way for couples to touch. Because it was, like you had to put it on your lap. You weren't really supposed to put it on a table. It was supposed to go on your lap. And that way it was on your knees and your knees were touching. And it was like, oh yeah, we're getting some. Here we go. However, there are some advertisements like the one that you did show with the 3 women. That was from a catalog that was trying to promote it to young girls to get this. There's also a cover of a magazine. I think it's a French magazine that has a woman playing the planchette by herself on it. And also the last thing I'll add to that is I don't have the whole thing because it's outside in the display, but this was marketed from Toys R Us.
Barbie Ouija board.
It was, I'll show you the front, only at Toys R Us. And it was directed specifically towards young girls, ages 8 and up. And it had like cards. It came with cards. I should have gotten them from the case, but there was cards. There's a whole deck of cards in there, and they had questions like, if I could trade places with any famous person, who would it be? Or who wants to be their best friend forever? Who wants me to be their best friend forever? And there's other questions in there like, who am I going to marry? I mean, it was obviously stereotyping towards young females. But I've never seen.
It's interesting.
Like, this is obviously directed towards young girls. I have no question about it. But I've never seen one specifically directed towards young boys. I don't know what that would be. Like I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, unfortunately, this is, and forgive me, everyone that's watching. Like, I'm looking at the stereotypes. It's pink. It's got it's a very much more feminine kind of design. The cards that go with it are much are definitely things that I grew up with, where the girls that I grew up with would be asking these same questions. So it was very much directed at young ladies. But the rest of them, like all these other ones, there's a French one that I have, the Stranger Things one, the regular ones, they are just marketed to the general public. So I think you're on to something. There was a slight shift there. Maybe because it's like, if you have sleepovers, who's more likely to play with a Ouija board?
Girls.
Marketing genius.
Well, that, I mean, just watching, even going way back, it just again, it just that idea. So marketing is psychology. It's just what it is.
Right.
And you're right, it does play on stereotypes and often promotes incorrectly and prolongs harmful stereotypes.
Right.
Um,
And what Donna said here too, it did come with a pink carrying case. So the whole thing was inside of a bright pink, like kind of plastic, that clear plastic stuff that I used to see, like a lot of the 80s stuff came that way. But yeah, definitely not made for little boys. But yeah,
I find that interesting. Yeah, again, it kind of goes to like what, like, and so that again, though, but that brings me back to another question about it is like, why the Ouija board? Like, what else? I wonder, makes me question, like, was there anything competing at the time for communication with spirits? Like, I don't think like you could get your own stuff that comes out of your nose and ears. That wouldn't be popular.
Ectoplasm?
Yes, yeah.
Like,
Play the
slime.
ectoplasm game, and your parents will be pleased that they have
Tarot
to clean that crap
cards.
up.
I mean,
That's good. You're right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Tarot cards, mirror gazing,
Tarot cards.
the old candle in the mirror for the psychomentium type effect.
The Bloody Mary
The
game.
Bloody Mary game. So
Stuff like this.
yeah, it'd be interesting to take a look at those. And
I'm going to.
I mean, that's interesting now that we think about it. It's like, yeah, you had those sleepover games. And I guess the Ouija board, because I remember going to like friends' houses when the girls would have sleepovers, and you'd go over and crash for like a few hours before their parents kicked you out. And it was like they always played the Ouija board. They always did, and I did the same thing. I would fuck with them. You know, I would wait till they were playing and then throw like a water balloon in there. And I mean, there's no better prank than having a water balloon explode in the middle of the Ouija board when they're all like asking questions like, is anybody here? I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah, we did the one in the dorm in college, and it was one of the ones where that had the planchette had the little metal pin in the middle. It's like it needs to be exactly on the letter. I don't know what the hell the metal pin was on there for, but it was so much fun. Little low lighting. You take one hand off of it, maybe two, and say, let's just let it rest on our laps. And you can kind of slide your hand down with a magnet under it. And then the thing's magically moving by itself.
Right.
There was one guy, we scared the living crap out of that dude. I mean, he thought for sure this thing was real. But it's a fun novelty thing. And it's something, you know, you mess around with around Halloween and have a good time.
Right.
But
so if you want to know what advertisements for tarot cards look like, just take what you saw all the females on the Ouija board. It's almost all. But why? All right. I got some good.
I'm wondering a lot of those ads, 40s, 50s, times of war.
Oh, way back.
Yeah.
Well, times of war. I mean, one of the pushes with spiritualism and communicating with the dead due to, you know, stress and loss of loved ones during times of war. That's one thing that's been noted a time or two.
There's one that looks like it's from the 40s. It's the Housewives Tarot, the domestic divination kit with deck and instruction book, and it looks exactly like the 1940s like advertisement.
I mean, we do
Housewives Tarot. That's
there is a history of surges in sales of Ouija boards and planchettes and that kind of thing after wars. We see a surge. I know that there was a surge in the late 1940s, and that was after World War II. I know there was a surge in mediumship and the planchette stuff after the Civil War, because these planchettes again Civil War ended at 1865, and there were already devices before that, and then people were using them. because I went all the way back to the Fox sisters. I figured that's probably where it really started with the knocks and the wrappings and stuff like that. And then, I mean, going through research over the years and coming up to this point, I've always found that it started there, and that was the thing to do until somebody needed to do something better. You know, like the next big thing had to one up what came before it. So you had knockings and wrappings, and then you had like spirit cabinets, and then you had slate writing, and then you had the planchette, pendulums, and all these other different things to find a different niche. So with this being said, like all going through the history and giving ideas and looking at the advertising, let's switch now, because we're almost 40 minutes in already. This is
okay.
A great conversation.
So the only thing I found that had an advertisement with men on tarot cards were the Supernatural tarot deck. Some from the TV show, The Supernatural or Supernatural. All right, sorry.
No problem.
I got good notes.
It's yeah. I would think the whole. Hopefully, I don't speak out of turn here, but basically, I think the female driven marketing is because there's always been that female dominated area. Like my recent trip to Lilydale, I went there like 2 months ago, but it was dominated by females. I mean, I counted maybe 4 or 5 other males there. The rest were female. When we sat down, me and Ben Radford, we went and we sat down for a big gallery reading. And I think in total there was 12 men. And then you're talking 120 women that were there. But historically, going back with mediumship, you had your mediums, which were primarily female. You read that there's very few that were historically male. I mean, there's definitely a few, but most of them, I think, were female. And I mean, we can get into the issues with that, because it was like once you were a medium, you pretty much had more rights. I feel weird saying this, but you had more rights as a female medium than you would normally have as a female. Am I saying that right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're also saying like you have more opportunities. You have more opportunities. You have a better self agency.
You could do more.
You can do more. You can affect, because you are in a position of authority that someone else either doesn't want or doesn't admit that they want, but they need, or they want the information that you have.
And I wonder if that just carries over from like to the tarot cards, to the Ouija boards. It's more of that spiritual nature. And I'm just speculating here with this. But like, the spiritual, the psychic, the mediumship kind of thing is usually, at least from what I see, what I observe, is predominantly female driven.
Yeah, I left my notebook downstairs, and so I'm using an old tax envelope saying you got to pay your taxes. So write all my notes. So I got lots of good notes.
And we're off at work. So we got a couple questions we can go through real quick.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
We're towards the end. Let's see. Why do you think the Ouija is still viewed by some as a gateway to evil? Because movies.
Movies, Catholic Church, TV shows, ghost hunting shows. People, if you knew nothing about it and you walked into a supposedly haunted location, the first thing you see is no Ouija boards allowed.
Huh.
What do you gonna think?
Dude, at the Conjuring house, that was one of the rules. Yet on the mantle above the fireplace, there are 2 Ouija boards.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's perpetuated by probably the TV shows. Anytime some story of possession, or occasionally you'll have a demonic possession story where they were playing with a Ouija board, or the view in various religions. I don't know if Catholic Church, Roman Catholic is the only one. I would assume there's others that probably don't look too favorably on it as well. But yeah, I think it's a lot of it is just through the church, movies, as Kenny said, and just TV shows.
Yeah,
I think it's I think it's if it was a gateway to clouds and soft bunnies, it wouldn't sell. And nobody could use it to sell. Do you know what I mean? Like the movies, like everything you're talking about needs a not bad guy, like literally like a guy, but a bad character.
Right.
And the Ouija board is always like a bad character. It's always like the start of like Dave was just saying, you know, they found a Ouija board in the attic, and as soon as they found it, all the shit started happening. Well, the Ouija board's gone. It was just the thing that lit the fire. And now the movie's about the fire. Excuse me. All this Ouija board talk. I'm choking.
I mean, you gotta think like there were so many sold. You're talking what? Like the first 1891 was the first patent of a Ouija board by Elijah Bond. So you're talking over 100 years, 150, 130 years of selling those. And then even before that, you had the planchettes and the planchette all-in-one Ouija board kind of things that we looked at earlier.
Yeah, those were cool. I didn't even know that those existed.
I'm so buying one. Nobody tell Donna.
Too late.
But like there's millions of them out there. And now we have themed ones. We have like I have the Stranger Things one. I have a whole bunch of different ones that are themed. I have weird ones. I have the what do I have? I have the Jesus one, which apparently pissed off a lot of church people. But there's a Jesus one, which is this one.
Dave, that's a good laugh.
It's so fucking awesome.
That is awesome.
It is really cool. Look, I'll show you. Like it's got.
Only thing make it better if you had a Eucharist that slid around and identified the letters.
Well, it's got a cross.
Oh well, of course. That is awesome. Now that's just cool.
That is cool. I love this one. And I got this. I know it was like a novelty, so I got it right away. But then I also have the drinking one.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Got that one. But they're coming out with ones that are themed like this, and people just want them for the novelty. It's a collector's item now. It's for nerds and geeks and stuff like that, horror fans. So if it was a portal to evil or to hell, too late. There's millions of them out there, and it would be way too late. Yeah. So good question though. All right. Wow, we got a couple questions now. I gotta go through these. Let's see. Let's see. Do they do the blindfold test?
This is one I kind of popped it up when we were talking about how they tested them.
Yeah, I did do that a couple years ago, many years ago. I had two teams. We actually set it up. We had two teams of 4. Had a custom board, which I have somewhere at home. I customized it so it wasn't the routine pattern. It wasn't the standard pattern that you see with the 2 rows of letters in an arc. It was in a big square, a grid, all the letters, numbers. It had specific names of people because we held the test in a specific haunted location that had certain ghosts that had been named. And then we blindfolded both teams before we put the board down. So they didn't even see the board. Put it down, and it was complete nonsense. Nothing worked. They couldn't do anything.
Wasn't it Penn and Teller that did the blindfold test on their show? Bullshit.
Did they do it?
I thought they did.
I know.
I can find it
because there was Mark Edward, my mentalist buddy that just passed away. He took part in one of those shows for a Ouija board session.
Yeah, I think it might have been because I found something here that says a shown on the Penn and Teller show bullshit. Most Ouija board sessions fail when the participants are blindfolded. We wanted to give this a try, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, maybe they didn't come up with it or they talked about it, but I don't know. I thought I recalled something.
I have an experiment idea.
Okay.
What are give me like 3 of the most common letters in answers that you would think a Ouija board. Like E for yes, O for no, O's in no. What's another common letter that you would just
S.
Common? S. S is good. So let's get a fully steel planchet. Let's put electrical current under the S, the E, and the O, and see how long it takes for the ghost to stop answering with the words that have the letters S, E, and O in it. Because the ghost wouldn't really care if it shocked the shit out of the. Do you see where I'm going with it?
Stop drinking coffee, Tim.
I'm just saying.
Sounds like a fun experiment to me.
It does. Yeah.
God, that's funny.
The ghost is going to say, well, we're not going to answer that anymore. Let's see.
We're going to shock the shit out of the people.
They'll sign a waiver. Goodness. It's percent.
Oh my God, you crack me up.
If it's the ghost, why would it give a rat's ass if it's shocking you? But if it's
all
you,
right. We'll have to discuss the ethics of that test. All right, Cat Mac. Aside from a version in Asia, I have only ever seen the boards in English. Yes, no, goodbye. Is it because Anglo-Saxons are more prone to play this stuff? So I have a board here. It's in both English and French. So that's the only one that I have. But you're right. Like I don't recall ever seeing one in like Spanish or Italian or German or anything like that. I don't know if there are.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Thought I read something.
we're all like
I know I saw something, but I don't remember where.
Spanish Ouija boards. So I'm looking up Spanish, seeing if there is. Let's see. Adios. Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing. Let's see. So I do see. Oh, all the different Ouija boards you never knew existed. Oh, this is cool. Let me see here. What is this?
Someone grab Kenny quick. He's going down a rabbit hole.
I'm down a rabbit hole. Too late. Oh man. All right. Well, good question. That's going to keep us busy for the rest of the night. Thank you, Kat.
Yeah.
Let's move on here because we're getting down to the wire. Michael, couldn't you just write all the stuff down on a piece of paper? That's on a Ouija board and use a shot glass if you didn't have anything else. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the premise still works.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's basically, that's all it is. I mean, there's actually, I think the second patent. So I have a patent here by Elijah Bond was in February of 1891. But then they made an improvement. The Kennard Talking Board Company made an improvement on it in November of 1891. And the improvement was to print it on paper and glue it to a board. Mm-hmm. That was their improvement, which was smart because it made it much easier, much faster production. But yeah, you could do that. I mean, that's what a Ouija board is. Basically just write everything out. And because I use that. What did I use that? I had one. Oh, my first attempt at a Faraday planchette, which was, I took a glass, like a shot glass, turned it upside down. And I took cardboard, and there was a way to wrap them in rubber bands where there was like 5 or 6 circles of cardboard that you can, if you try to push the glass, the whole top moves before the glass does. Mm. So I improved it when I did the ball bearing one. Mm-hmm. So I have a ball bearing planchette, but this was an earlier version based on Michael Faraday's design. that I did. So I use that, and yeah, you can absolutely use that.
Yeah, we could also hook up electrodes to the ball bearings and see how many
Just
shocks.
wants to shock people.
I'm just saying, we can see how many shocks it takes before the ghost doesn't want to talk anymore. He's gone. She's gone. It's gone.
Moving on before Tim kills someone. Where did the idea of looking for spirits through the hole in the planchette originate?
Oh, that's a good question. I
swear
never
that was
thought
a
about it.
movie.
It's a movie?
I think the only time I ever saw that was in a movie.
Yeah, in Ouija. The movie called Ouija. And yeah, that's what they do. They pick the planchette up and they look through the glass. Where is it? There it is. They look through and they're like, oh, I can see the ghosts. But that's the first and only time I've ever heard that. So but good question.
It was a good question.
Right. So Cat's Meow. Do you think the surge in popularity after wars is because people want to reconnect with loved ones or lost loved ones? Or does war remind people that there might be something after death?
Both.
Both, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was to help cope with the loss and then hope that there's something afterwards. I think there's actually been a fair amount of material written on that. It's, Civil War, World War, pandemics,
right?
1918 flu. There was a big increase in spiritualism and that type of stuff after each one of those, as we talked about before, mainly because I think people, they're losing loved ones. You are trying to stay connected with them or know they're at peace or they're okay.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a good question and a good point.
Yeah, people, the men go off to war, they don't come back. And yeah, there's that desperation in order to reconnect or get some closure. Because it's not like you got to say goodbye. They're they're gone and that's it. So yeah.
I bet if you were really good at research, I bet you could find the sales of Ouija boards per year and see if there's an uptick in the sales after disasters or wars.
That'd be interesting to do.
Yeah, that would be.
From what I've read, there's a really good website on the history of things. It's called mysteriouslanchette.com. And it's really good, really detailed, really well written, a lot of reference images. There's a lot of shit that I didn't know. A lot of the images that I had, I showed of the early planchettes I've never seen before until I got to them. There's even a scientific planchette, which I'm going to try and get that too. There's a Selcho and Reiter scientific planchette, first manufactured in 1875. Don't know why it's scientific, but it's got a little booklet.
That's it.
It's got
the booklet.
And it's got, well, actually, no, that might be the cover. I don't know. I'll show you. Hold on a second. That's it. I don't know what this is. If this is for a pencil, that might be for a pencil.
Ah, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Because it looks like it's like it looks like this down here, the two legs are holding it up, and this doesn't have the third leg. So there's probably a pencil that goes in there. That'd be cool. I gotta look for this stuff. Right. But yeah, I agree. I think the loss really made people surge at any kind of hope. And I think that's still a common problem when we see a lot of mediums that make big business off of the people that recently lost people, and I won't go into that right now because I'll get pissed off. All right. Chris, if the board is on the table, what makes the planchette move? Muscle twitches? So I can comment just from experience on this too. I did we had a night where a friend of mine, Mitch Silverstein and Stephanie Bond, they came over. We had a few other people involved and we took turns playing with the Ouija board. And none of us believed it worked, but we were all willing to try. And it was interesting because the planchette, for the most part, didn't move. However, the act of keeping your arms up
Mhm.
and holding them with a specific pressure on the planchette, because you're not supposed to lean on it, but you're also not supposed to take your fingers off of it. You're supposed to have, like, usually it was like 2 fingers, but keep them on there just enough that you were touching it. So you're constantly holding in position that entire time. And it was noticed that when fatigue set in, you would drop your arms a little bit. Your shoulders would drop, your arms, or you would try to, like you're trying to hold up with your arms, and then your arms got tired. So you use your shoulders to hold them up. And once fatigue came in and you dropped a little bit, it pushed the planchette a little bit. And once it started moving, we did notice that people just went with it. They would let it go for a few inches and it would stop. And it wasn't because it moved on its own. It was because somebody finally got tired and they let their arms drop. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think people, that's good explanation. I think some people also just move it to mess with people, but
There's that.
there's also there's the possibility that even subconsciously there's a way you could be moving. It's the same idea that you're talking ideomotor effect, and you
Right.
really could be subconsciously influencing where you move it without thinking you're moving it. So I think
Yeah.
that's about it. I mean, the best thing would be just it'd be wonderful if somebody had a video of you put it out somewhere, you put the planchette on it, you just record it, and then you get a recording of it moving around, spelling stuff out. Now that would be impressive.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Never seen it happen though. I've left a Ouija board out every Halloween. We put one out probably October 1st, leave it out until about November 5th on the table with the planchette on it. Never moves.
That might be fun. That might be just a fun kind of throwaway kind of live stream. Just one night, come in here on October 31st. I'll set a table up right here instead of my chair and put some Ouija boards on it and put the planchettes out and just have the camera going for a couple hours and say, here you go. Like I'll check on it in the morning, see if it moves.
For a simple $2 fee, everybody can tune in and be as lame and boring as we are.
Yeah. Watch the dumbest live stream you've ever paid to watch.
Probably make a good amount of money on that one.
You know what? We'll team it up with a charity. I think that's a good idea. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a charity stream.
Good idea.
Let's see if a planchette will move. We'll set it up. We'll do all the things. I'll move it around each board and say, come on, do it, do it. I'll even put some of the haunted objects that I have surrounding it. But then all the money that is raised will go to cancer research. We'll see. We'll see if maybe that'll do something. We'll see. It'll be fun.
One of the last things I ended up doing as a ghost hunting team was when iPads were kind of splashing pretty big. We got an iPad downloaded the app that you could use your finger to draw and write, and then stuck like the little battery operated keyboards. So you could do that, and we left it in a room and just was, if you can touch it, write it. Of course, nothing happened, of course. And then there's the whole, you get the argument of it's heat, it's all that, but why not? I tried it with the keyboard attached to it too. And
right.
We never got a message.
There's one final question here.
Oh,
shoot. Not exactly sure. Tiffany says, what makes it scientific?
I think that was when you were talking about the scientific
Ouija
board.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I
said because it came with a booklet.
I read the information around it, and it doesn't describe it. It doesn't tell me why it's considered scientific. So I'm gonna dig into it because I'm really interested, and I think that would be really something cool. If I can get a hold of one, that would be cool for our museum. So I might look into that a little bit deeper.
You know what else doesn't say it's scientific? Ghost hunting teams that claim to be scientific.
Oh shit. All right. Let's see. You
Oh,
said
wait a
I
minute.
don't
Wait.
know right after I hit enter.
Thank you.
I don't even know what my buttons do anymore. I don't even know. Can you hear this? Wait.
Shut up! You're killing me, Smalls.
Yeah.
You're killing me, Smalls. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, that one's there.
All right, cool. All right, we are at the end of the show. We're actually a couple minutes over. So let's wrap it up. Final thoughts on the Ouija board and what we've talked about tonight. Dave, you're up first.
Not as miserable of a show as I thought it would be. It's always fun. It's interesting to see where the three of us come from, and it seems like it's becoming even more common for us to find the same papers, make some of the same points. But yeah, it was fun. I learned a couple small new things, and it's good stuff. And I did not realize the variety of different Ouija boards you could buy, and I'm even more amazed at the variety of Ouija boards Kenny has bought. So if you have some land in a swamp, you might want to talk to him. He likes to buy things. But no, it was interesting. So it was fun as always. Always like chatting with you guys, and even the topics that make me groan are a lot of fun when we show up and get through them.
Yeah. All right.
So I still don't think there's anything to it. So there.
Tim?
I don't think there's anything to it either. I like just getting and just talking with you guys. I end up with like notes all the time and experiment ideas, and I would like to shock somebody to see how fast that ghost doesn't want to answer any more questions after they get shocked. I kind of found it really interesting about the advertisement aspect of it too, and just the history of it, and why the targeting of different individuals and why the age groups, and what was the idea on it. And again, I go back to, advertising is psychology, and it's studied psychology. And so there was something there for them to see, to place it in that area, right or wrong, even if they did a wrong thing by doing that, it's still a good idea to like look back at that and see it. I found that interesting. I'm probably still going to look up some more stuff about it too.
Cool. So for me, I think the fascinating part about this was not just going back into the history and seeing a more detailed evolution of how it came to be, but seeing how deeply ingrained it is in our culture. When we're talking over 150 years that this type of thing, at least a planchette, has been around, and it's ingrained into our culture. It came into the culture as a good thing. It wasn't evil. It wasn't bad. It was something that first mystified you, because there wasn't really an explanation, and you see the explanation start to evolve. There's plenty of articles out there. I didn't even get to some of the articles that I pulled up from like 1892 and 1920s, going into how it allegedly works, and the reasoning behind it, and people using it. Like, for instance, I'm going to show you real quick because I know I have it here. This is an article that I pulled off of newspapers.com. Dolly hears Mrs. Caudle Jr. deliver some very pointed curtain lectures. Mrs. Claude believes when Mr. Claude phones he won't be home for dinner, that the Ouija board can locate him. And it's an entire story of using the Ouija board to find her husband when he doesn't come home. And this was not as a joke. It wasn't as a fun thing. It was a serious article. So this was ingrained heavily into our culture, and I think it became just part of the pop culture. It was an everyday thing. Everybody just knew about it. Almost every household had a Ouija board. And then you get into a time where there was a transition of its reputation. It was the spiritualist movement took over, and they started using it for communicating with the dead and showing that they could communicate. So now it became this lifeline to the other side. And when wars happened and people lost their loved ones, it became this lifeline that we could still say goodbye. We could still talk to them. And then it went through another transition with more modern times, especially when The Exorcist was released. And then it was tied to something evil. And not only that, it was tied to something evil in a format that was worldwide. It wasn't just something that was local or maybe made its rounds from Ohio to the rest of the country. It was a worldwide phenomenon. And it came out and everyone saw it. It spent, I think it's just over a minute of screen time in a movie. Did very little, but was responsible for an alleged evil act that was based on a true story. So therefore, fuck its reputation. It's done. You know, and now I think we're in the midst of a transition again, because it went pure evil where, you know, the church, different churches were saying, don't use it at all because it's bad. Having so many people say it's bad, it's evil, don't use it. But now we have novelty versions. We have like the white one that's back here. Is it from Penhurst Asylum? It was from a conference. I went there. I have the Stranger Things one. I have an Elvira one. I have so many versions of this. It's a novelty now. So now we're seeing another evolution of it, where it's part of the pop culture in a sense, like Monopoly. You have 20,000 versions of Monopoly, and now we're getting the same thing with Ouija boards. So I think it's cool overall. I love the designs. That's why I collect them. I don't collect them to try to contact the dead. You know, I collect them because of the artwork. So with that said, I think we're done.
All right.
All right.
Good show, guys. Good discussion. It was enjoyable.
Fun show next time.
Who's up next?
I think I am.
Yeah, you are. Good.
Yes.
Over there.
Yeah.
You know what your topic is? Actually, I think we do have a topic.
We do have a topic. Yes.
Yes. We do have a topic, but we're not gonna say what it is yet.
But it's gonna be good.
Yeah. Well,
we don't want to scare anybody off.
That's all we're gonna say. But tune in next month because if everything works out, it's gonna be good. It's definitely
even if it doesn't work out exact, it's still gonna be good.
Yeah.
It's still gonna be good.
All right, Dave, you got anything coming up?
I do with you two.
Ooh.
Hanover Tavern Paracon 2025. That's the one the three of us were invited to go to January 31st through February 1st in Hanover, Virginia. We also need to come up with a topic to talk about, which will probably happen the night before as we're drinking beers at the bar.
Yeah.
I think we should just send. Was it Robert Bradley's the one who reached out to us? I think we should just send him. Our talk title is 3 question marks. We'll let you know when we get there.
Well, yeah. Virginia is a legal state, so you know there will be 3 guys at a strange bar with laptops going, "What about this? What about this?"
But we'll figure out something. So I'm looking forward to it. I went to that. That's the one I went to last year and gave the talk on the EMF paper. So it's a nice group of people. It's a lot of fun. It's a great location. It's beautiful out there. So looking forward to it.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Oh,
Tim.
Yep.
You're up.
Same thing as Dave. I'll see you guys. That
was easy.
Yep. See you guys in January, February.
Good. All right. For me, I am heading out to the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Camping Adventure tomorrow morning. I'm heading down there to, where am I going? I don't even know where I'm going. I know. I have it in my
evidence of the night before, all 3 of us. It's probably why we all get along so good. It's because we all have the same procrastination. So nobody gets mad at it. Dave, Kitty's like, I'm going somewhere big tomorrow. Where the fuck am I going?
I got a 5-hour drive and I really don't know where I'm going.
Hopefully Siri knows where you're going, or Alexa.
So I will be in Farmington, Pennsylvania at the Benner's Meadow Run RV campground. That's where this Bigfoot event is. It's a entire weekend. It's Friday and Saturday, which is the actual event. There's a bunch of speakers. I'm one of them. I'm going to be talking about investigating strategies. Yeah, the specialty is taking effect. I'm going to be talking about investigative strategies with a more of a Bigfoot slant to it. So adding some of the things that I've done with the Bigfoot community in there. And then talk about it. Hopefully nobody gets pissed off because we're going to be talking about some serious topics, and there's going to be some morbid examples just to drive the point home. Nothing to make fun of, but just driving the point home about eyewitness testimony. So it should be interesting if you're showing up. Other than that, I know there's SciCon coming up in October 24th to 27th. I'll be in Las Vegas, Nevada for that.
Super cool.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm doing a workshop with Richard Saunders, who is my Australian counterpart. He does the same job for the Australian skeptics. Really nice guy. I've talked to him a bunch of times, so I'm looking forward to actually working with him for the first time in this. But with that, everyone that watches Skeptical Help Bar, there is no show this week because I will be at a campground that has no Wi-Fi. So I will not be broadcasting. So that'll be next week when we have a show. And with that, I think we're done. And I'm going to not screw it up. I'm going to play the ending video.
You're going to screw it up.
No, I'm not. Shut up. All right, we're out of here.
I'm like getting ready. I'm watching the bar.
We will see you next week.
Tortured souls.